and this is my soon-to-be son-in-law, Avery, and we both love to cook, but we know there's a lot of people out there who are uncomfortable in the kitchen. They're confused about how to cook healthy food. They think they don't have enough time to cook, so they don't sit down to the table and share a meal with family and friends, and they end up picking up unhealthy food on the run.
Well, we are here to change all of that. We're going to show you how to cook quick, healthy, everyday food so that you can be confident in the kitchen and have more memories around the table with the people that you love. You've got this, so let's get started.
All right, guys, this episode is about something that I am super passionate about, and it's about entertaining. I just find that so many wonderful things can happen when we sit down around a table with family and friends. Not too long ago, I was just having some time to think, and I was like, what is it about cooking that I love so much? And what I realized is, yes, I do love cooking. I find it almost therapeutic when I'm cooking. But what I really love is sitting down and having conversations with people. My love language is conversations. I like to hear people's stories. I like to talk about things that matter. I have a hard time with just staying too surface like we do when we're passing people by. How you doing? Good, 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 good. Instead, I want to sit down, and when I say, how you doing? I want to be able to say it a second time and maybe a third time. No, really, how you doing? Like, what's going on? And that's what can happen around a table. Also, as far as a family goes, I remember years ago when my kids were pretty little, and I was reading a Reader's Digest article, and in there it was talking about what parents can do if they want to have successful kids. Not sure what they used to kind of, clarify what successful is, but I remember that they mentioned if you do want your kids to stay away from drinking and drugs and sex and all that kind of stuff, here's what you can do. Sit down and have dinner with them at the end of the day. I mean, how simple is that? To sit down and be with your family and let them share. Ask them questions. What was the best part of your day today? What was the worst part of your day? What are you going to do tomorrow that you're looking forward to? Just questions like that. And, I was fortunate. I have 3 kids who are talkers. Not kidding. We would sit down to a dinner and we'd queue up to talk. So if I said something, my daughter might say, okay, I'm next. And my son's like, well, I'm after her. Okay, you're number 2. And we'd kind of queue. And then I would just sit there and I'd listen to them all talk. And my husband and I we loved that time of sitting down to a meal. So what I want to do is just tell you, when you invite people into your home, I want to help you take away stress and worry and fear. Because the more that we invite people into our home, I believe that we will see more and more opportunities to share God's love and truth with people. It's when you sit and you talk, something will come up. Maybe it's something that they'll say, and you could just say, can I pray for you? And that's such an easy way to kind of start talking about faith. Maybe it's how your faith has helped you through a similar struggle that they're going through. So when I have people over, typically one of 2 ways. One, which is kind of the more common, I have everybody bring something. If somebody offers, I'm like, get ready, because I'm going to say yes to that. So if you're coming to my house, I'll be like, hey, yeah, can you bring a salad, or could you bring an appetizer? And then it makes it really easy for me. I just might do that main course or something. So, but another way that I do it is to prepare a meal that's not super involved, because the last thing I want to do when I have people over to my house is to be tied up in the kitchen and missing out on the conversation, because remember, I'm all about the conversation. So here's what I'm going to walk you through. Avery and I are going to go back and forth and kind of share with you a meal that's really easy to make if you're having, say, 8 people into your home for dinner. And one thing you can do, guys, master this. Just do this one, and then do it the next time you have people over, and the next time. It's something that you can just duplicate. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time people come into your home. So what we're going to do is start off with an appetizer. All we've done here, and you can even buy some of these things already sliced, but I have some yellow peppers, orange peppers here, some carrots, some cucumbers. Put down whatever vegetables you have or you like, and ones that are easy to kind of put out. And then make a dip. And this is a dip that I actually make quite often at home. Sometimes I'll use it as a dip to put for chicken, or just a great on really any vegetable. I'm adding 1 cup of Greek yogurt, and Greek yogurt is a little bit thicker. As you can see, as it's coming out, it's not as liquidy, so it works really well for a dip. And the reason it's a Greek yogurt is after they make yogurt, they strain it. So some of the liquid comes off, which increases the amount of protein in it, but it also gives it a thicker consistency.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Once again, I'm just teaching you all sorts of things. Yep. So then I have dry mustard. What I like about this is it just gives food a little bit of a kick. It's got a little bit of kind of a little spicy, but a very unique flavor. So I'm going to go with 1 teaspoon of some dry mustard in here, okay? Right there. Then a seasoning that I use all the time is dill. I just find dill makes so many things. So, I mean, fish, eggs, potatoes, all sorts of things. So I'm going to go ahead here, and now I'm going to put actually, a tablespoon of dried dill. That's a lot of dill, but I really do like that flavor. I put that in, okay? Now, the only other thing I've got to do is add a little bit of salt and pepper. And I've got this great healthy dip. And even if it's just you, I mean, this is a way that you can have kind of a nice creamy dip, and you don't have to feel bad about it. It's not got anything bad for you. So we just stir this around. And doing something like this, a nice simple appetizer, one that can sit out. You don't have to serve it hot. Another thing that I'll do often is get some fun cheeses and slice up some apples and put some grapes down. And there you just have some great things that people can start to nibble on when they arrive. I don't recommend doing like real heavy appetizers if you're going to be serving a big meal. It's just too much, and then people get filled up and then they don't eat all that food that you made. So let me just kind of show you here. See this great dip?
That looks
just
awesome.
like, yeah, it looks like just like any unhealthy dip, but it's healthy.
And it's so easy. You could buy that dip, of course, kind of pre-made, but it makes a big difference when you're making it yourself.
Yeah, because pre-made isn't going to be that healthy.
Right.
That's for sure.
That's exactly right.
All right, so this is the appetizer. Avery's going to go on now to a great salad.
Again, this is super easy, something you can do ahead of time, just pop in the fridge, and when it comes time,
Pull it out.
You know, it's funny with that entertaining thing, I always think to myself, and I have to remind myself of this, I'm just as guilty as anybody else, is what good is it if I have the house, I've got the car, I've got the job, but I get so caught up in that what really matters is relationships. I mean, every time they do a big study of what people look back in their life, they always go back to relationships, and I've got to keep my mind on that, and the best way to do that is having meals, having people over, having those conversations. I get so caught up in me, that I kind of forsake some of that sometimes. So having purposeful and pointed meals geared towards conversation and having new people over makes all the difference in the world. So I've got about probably 3 or 4 cups of, this is just regular spinach. You could use any kind of lettuce that you wanted. To that I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of green onions. Sprinkle those right on top.
I have to tell you, these pre-made salads that are pre-washed and everything, it makes salads so much easier. My husband said the other day, he goes, you know how there's a saying that says, that's the greatest thing since sliced bread? He said, I think that's going to start to become, that's the greatest thing since pre-washed lettuce.
That's exactly, it saves so much time.
Yeah, it does. So easy.
All right, so with this big salad, we're just going to add about 6 ounces. This is about 1/2 cup, 3/4 cup of blueberries. It's just what was on sale in the supermarket. You can add whatever kind of fruit you want to it. To that, now I'm going to go ahead and make my dressing because I'm going to crumble this goat cheese. I don't want to get all over my hands. So I'm going to have about 1/3 cup of red wine vinegar. And to that, I'm going to add about 1/3 cup of olive oil. It's just a good rule of thumb. It makes it easier to have the same amount of vinegar to oil. Just makes life easier. You don't have to think about it. And then to this, I'm going to add a little bit of a twist. You could add Dijon mustard. You could make 1,000 different dressings. But I'm going to add a little bit of orange juice, which is really fun.
Sometimes I'll even use a little bit of frozen orange juice concentrate. Just gives it a little bit more zing, and I use that in cooking a lot, like an orange chicken I'll make, and I use that orange juice concentrate. But orange juice right there is good as well.
You could put this in a blender and it would really kind of become cohesive, but it separates a little bit now, and that's okay. You want me to add the dill to the salad or to the dressing?
Either way, whatever you think there, yeah.
Well, let's add it to the dressing. I've just got a little bit of salt and pepper. It's going to take off some of that vinegary kind of edge to it. So just about a teaspoon of each, and then let's do about a teaspoon of the dill, maybe a little extra because we really like that flavor. Stir that up. Oh my gosh, pour that on top. It's really light, really refreshing. Wait to pour the dressing over top to right about when you're going to serve it.
Good idea. Yeah, you can have the salad all ready to go, even have already goat cheese on it, and then just pour that dressing over it so you don't have to take time at doing anything.
So then I've got about 1/3 cup of goat cheese. This is really, really pungent, really good, really fresh. Makes all the difference in the world. And look how beautiful that is coming together.
And then when you do a dinner, guys, a lot of times I just like doing family style. I'll put platters on the table and everybody starts passing things around and it gets the conversation going. So you don't have to worry about plating everything and bringing and making it all formal. Just have this beautiful salad.
I'm getting goat cheese everywhere.
On it. So again, easy. You saw how long it takes to make that. Next thing we're going to do is some roasted asparagus.
Cool, I'm going to rinse off.
Yeah, you do that. so I don't get it on me again. So with asparagus, one thing to know about asparagus is the bottom portion of it can be tough. If you haven't cooked with asparagus, sometimes people hold it and just snap it, and then wherever that snap happens, that's the place that you're supposed to do it. You know, I do it a little bit faster. I take the whole thing, I just cut off the bottom 25%. That's typically about where it would snap. So I just cut that right off. So here it is. This is all washed. It's a great vegetable, and I'm going to put it onto a cookie sheet. Then I'm going to take a lemon, and if you're using any type of citrus and you're going to be cooking with it and you want the juice, a great thing to do is to put some pressure on it and just kind of roll back and forth. It really kind of loosens it up a little bit. Then I'm going to cut it in half. And if you don't have one of these, it's fine. Just kind of squeeze it all over, or put it into a little glass dish when you squeeze it so that the seeds don't get in there. And then I just take it, and I am a big citrus person, and you could go with a half of a lemon, but I'm going to go with a full. Okay, you got that for me? Yeah. Great. So here we go. All right. Here's this. Oop, one little seed snuck out. Don't get that in your eye. Okay, so we got that now. Then I'm going to take some olive oil, if you can pass me that olive oil.
Yeah.
And I'm putting just about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I drizzle it across, just like that.
Yum.
And then the last thing I'm going to do is just sprinkle some Parmesan cheese over it. And then it gets this just kind of almost crispy cheese on top, but it doesn't take much. So I'm putting over here, it's kind of a heaping teaspoon to almost a tablespoon of Parmesan. And then what you want to do is just kind of roll the asparagus a little bit so that they all get coated, and ideally you put them in a single layer. Now what I do for this is I preheat the oven to 425. So you want a nice hot oven because you want to get these crisp, tender, not soggy and mushy, so you want to keep an eye on them. And when I put it at that nice hot temperature, they only take about 15 minutes in the oven. They cook very quickly. So there we go.
Please don't overcook your vegetables. That's the biggest thing I see with people cooking broccoli or asparagus and things like that. They leave it in too long. Please, 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 always cook it a little more, but you cannot cook it less. So when in doubt, go ahead and take it out of the oven, check it, bite it. If it's got that little crunch, if that's the way you like it, that's the best way to eat it. That's going to have the most flavor, and it really is just going to make a world of difference when it comes to your cooking and looking like you really know what you're doing, because you do know what you're doing.
You think we know what we're doing?
I think we do. I hope so. Sometimes I don't know. So this whole idea around cooking and entertaining is really important to me because it's kind of the reason why I'm here. So this is how I met Danica, your daughter. So we were cooking basically for high school kids every single day for like 3 weeks. We were leading a summer program where we were traveling all around the Southeast. And we had to cook for these people. And we really bonded over that idea that we want to have a home. We want to be the kind of people that entertain and have anybody over. Anybody's welcome at our table, no matter where you came from, no matter where you're going. There's a place for you there. That means a lot to us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if my life would be as full without that kind of element to it, if it wasn't for having that community around that. I mean, that's where I form a lot of my relationships and hope to in the future as well. So this idea is not just, oh, that sounds fun and cool, and entertaining people is stressful, so I'm probably not going to listen to anything you guys say. If you're tuning out, please check back in. This is so vital to have that community around the table. It's something we believe in so much that we named the show after, the fresh table, to have people around that idea. So this is a big deal for us. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and like you said, they were camp counselors. They were kind of thrown into a situation where they were around each other almost 24/7, and they had 14 children. And these children called them like mom and dad. I think they were meant to get married, right? How do you have that happen? But Danica said, she told me, she's like, I saw one, just the way he interacted and his love for children, but also just his willingness to step up. And he, more than helped out. He took charge, and he had to cook 3 meals a day for all these kids and help get them places. The two of them would do devotionals with these kids, so she saw kind of his love for Jesus and everything. So it was really cool, and now that he's going to be part of our family, couldn't be better.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another thing, guys, the rice cooker. I am all about a rice cooker here, because what you can do when you're having people over is you can get this ready in advance. You just put water or chicken broth, whatever you're cooking your rice. You can follow the directions on the package, put the rice in, and push either white rice or brown rice, and when you need it, it's warm. So we'll keep it warm. Now you wouldn't want to do it like 8 hours in advance, but before everyone gets there, you get your rice cooker going, put in the rice, and then go ahead and start it up, and it's nice and warm. So all you have to do then when it's time to eat, now you could serve it just plain white rice, which would be great, but what I recommend is putting some parsley on it. So here we've got some parsley. I'm going to ask Avery to kind of start dicing up some parsley for me. But I want to show you this because a lot of times people, see fresh herbs and they're not quite sure, how do I get, I don't want the stem on it. All you need to do when you're working with fresh herbs is kind of hold it and then just pull down. And all these leaves can kind of just come right into your hand. So you hold it like this again and kind of just lightly pull. And look at that.
Against the grain a little bit.
Yeah, so you're pulling down against those leaves.
Now, and also, please, please, please do not waste any of this just amazing ingredients. Put the stems in a stock, put them in your compost pile, whatever you're going to do with them. Try to eliminate as much waste as you can. It's really good, especially with all this food, leftovers, anything like that. There's always a way to reuse it. You just got to get creative and more confident in the kitchen.
Yeah, so he's going to dice that up. And what I love is to have a little bit of olive oil on top of it. Just a little bit gives it this extra flavor. A little olive oil. And then a little bit of salt on top. Not tons. And then we're going to go ahead and put some fresh parsley in. I mean, how easy is this? So you've got it in the rice cooker right before you're ready to serve it. A couple minutes, you already have your parsley diced up, and you add that in. And don't be afraid to add quite a bit because it does add just a whole new flavor to it. You can also do things where you're using coconut milk inside the rice cooker and adding some peas and cilantro. I mean, so many different ways. Green onions and peas, just little things like that. Adding a little bit more to the rice. It just makes it just a kind of a more fun dish. So there's
look what a big difference that makes.
Yeah.
It looks like you just really put in some time and effort.
Yeah.
It was so easy.
Let's go on to the pork.
Let's do it.
Okay. Now if you don't want to do pork, you can also do chicken with this. You can do lamb. This is a crust that I think is just amazing.
So again, we're going to cook this at a pretty high temperature. I recommend about 400 or 425. Let's say 400 for about 20 to 25 minutes. Now, with meat, there's a couple different ways to say that it's done. If you're really starting out cooking, I really recommend, especially if you're going to cook for guests, get a meat thermometer. So get a digital one or just a normal one that kind of winds up. And with pork, you need to look up the temperatures. For poultry and things like that, you've got about 165. And then for a pork loin like this, an internal temperature of about 140 to 145 is really important. You don't want to serve anything that is not cooked all the way. Also, when in doubt, let it rest for a little while, then cut it. When you cut something, though, you're going to release a lot of those juices. So it's really important with this that we let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you've ever cooked a big steak or anything like that and you cut into it too soon, all the juices will just flow right out. You don't want to do that. Just let it rest. You can even wrap it in foil or film wrap and let it rest in its own kind of steam. That actually makes a big difference for getting it tender. So with this, depending on the size, it's going to vary. I can't give you an exact amount. You're going to have to know with that internal gauge. If you're really getting confident, you can tell by the way that it feels. There's a couple different tricks. I like to do like this is kind of more well done because it's harder. This is kind of medium, and the fleshy part of your hand is more rare. So with this, we're just going to put basically two ingredients in this, and that's all. So we've got hot mustard. I'm going to coat it all over, and then Miss Michelle, if you'll put some pepper on top of that.
Yeah,
so this is kind of sweet hot mustard. That flavor. It's going to give it a nice color, and also, like Miss Michelle said, it's going to have a nice little crust because it cooks really hot.
Yeah, and that hot oven, this mustard almost caramelizes over the pork, and it's just such a great flavor. And be generous with it, coat it all up in it. And then we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of black pepper on it. And one of the things with pork is people often are afraid of even the slightest bit of pink. To me, I think pork tastes better when it's not well done, when it's not too done. Now on the other side, obviously you don't want raw pork. But, I mean, this, and then we would just put this, so you'd have this all ready to go. And then you put a heavy dose of some nice cracked pepper on it. Put it into that hot oven, probably 30 minutes before you're going to sit down. Cook it for, 20 minutes. Let it rest for about 5, and then slice it up so you can see.
I mean, this is amazing. It's so quick. You can marinate it the day before. If you're really afraid of this, you can put it in a slow cooker and kind of have pulled pork. There's a ton of different options for entertaining. Crock pot's a great way, but with this, honestly, it's so fast and easy, and the more you cook it, the more confident you're going to be. And like Ms. Michelle said, do this a couple times, and before the end of it, it's going to be debris. I mean, it really is going to be so easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's pop this in the oven.
That we just go right in there. So I'll just put it here for now. right.
It's gonna be the best meal.
I know, isn't this like amazing? So here's something, guys, when it comes to dessert. I'm telling you, this might seem odd, but I've done this for multiple parties, and people get such a kick out of it. I get a high-quality dark chocolate bar. Now, sometimes they come with orange or some almonds or different things, but you get that dark chocolate, and you get a nice kind of fancy platter, maybe even a silver platter, and you go ahead and you take it, and you just break it into squares, okay? So here we go. Just a little square like that, and you put it on so that people, maybe they want to try more than one flavor. Sometimes I'll even put a little note so they know which one it is, so they can try them. They might want to try more than one. So you can just put some great dark chocolate onto a platter and then pass that around to everybody. So something that I have started doing, it's kind of a fun thing, and we call it Cabernet and Conversation. So this type of a meal, what my husband and I do is we invite people into our home. Some people we know, other people we're like friends of friends, but we're like, bring them in. And we typically sit down, and there's people, they're all different places in their kind of faith journey. Some people might have a relationship with Jesus, some people don't. And my husband and I kind of pray over what would be some great questions we could throw out to the group. What questions could we kind of put together? So people come into our home, just kind of regular conversation going on. We're having some appetizers and all that. And then when we sit down, as the meal's coming to an end and we're starting to pass around the dark chocolate, we'll say, hey, we thought it'd be fun if we just kind of threw out some questions here and we all could share a little bit. Don't feel like you have to share, but on the other side, you're not going to be talking for 5 minutes, so we might have to cut you off if you talk too long. So some questions would be like, what has brought you the most joy in the last month, 2 months, 3 months? And people start to share. And then what happens is there's people around the table often that haven't heard the real joy that comes from knowing Jesus. And so they're hearing just people openly sharing stories, and a lot of times it involves their faith. And I am just so excited when these conversations happen, because I know there was one time we had a couple at our table, and he had grown up in India, and then he went to a Catholic church, and he would say now that he was more Buddhist, and his wife was more Jewish at the time and all that. So we had just kind of a mixture going on, and they sat there quietly for a while, and at the very end he said, I don't have what you guys have, and it's something that sure looks appealing. It's worth it, right? That maybe hour and a half, 2 hours I spent preparing a meal, that one person who didn't know about Jesus might say, what you have looks appealing. And I know full well that I cannot, neither Avery and I, we can't, it's not us who brings people to Jesus. It's Jesus who does that. It's only him working on their hearts and everything. But you know what, guys? He wants to use you. He wants to use me. He wants to use it. He wants to use all of us. And there's nothing better than knowing that you got to play just a small role in someone's journey to eternity, right? Because when life comes to an end, if you believe that there's either a heaven or there's a hell. And I love people. The reason I share my faith with people is because God has given me a love for people. This isn't about me trying to win someone or check one off the list. This is about God has just helped me to look at people with love. And that because I love them, the greatest, nicest thing I believe that I can tell anyone is about Jesus. And that somebody else might come in their life a little bit later and tell them a little bit more. And somebody else, I don't need to see them. I say, okay, I believe Michelle. That's not what it's about. It's just me sharing a little bit. All right. So we're going to just try to make this a little bit prettier here. We're going to show it to you one last time, and we'll finish up this Entertaining Made Easy.
All right, everybody, look how amazing this looks. This was so easy. You can do it ahead of time. If I walked into a home and it looked like this, I would be very, very excited, not only to eat, but what's more important than that is, you know what? A lot of times people don't need judgment. They don't need another place where somebody's telling them what to do. They need a nice warm meal, a welcoming home, a conversation, some place where they can feel at peace and at rest. I hope my home is like that one day, and I hope people are able to come to meals like this because it's really not that difficult.
It's not that difficult, guys, and it can make such a difference in someone's life. And one thing I want you to know is that I just have to take a minute right now to tell everybody out there how thankful I am for this guy right here.
I'm thankful for you.
How many guys at 24 years old would do something like this with their future mother-in-law? Ugh. But also, more important, that he is all about this. He is all about bringing people into the home and serving them and doing this. And so, guys, who is it right now? I want you to think. Who can you invite into your home and sit with them? Maybe you don't have the perfect looking home. Maybe you don't have the perfect looking, you can't prepare the perfect meal. But who can you invite and just say, I want to hear what you have to say. So guys, thanks so much for joining us today. Go to thefreshtable.org. We have so many resources there that can help you to live life to the fullest and have a body full of strength and energy. And I just have to say, at 54, I feel as strong as I did when I was 20, if not stronger. And so don't think that you're too old to start making changes and start getting some energy and some excitement to do some entertaining. Thanks, and we hope to see you next time at The Fresh Table.
See you guys.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Fresh Table. I want you to know that the reason Avery and I do this show is because we care about you. And I know that might seem kind of weird because you're on the other side of a camera, but we truly do care about you. We want you to learn how to cook healthy food so that you do have strength and energy. But we also are doing this because we want to give God glory. That's really our purpose here on earth, is to give God glory in all that we do. And I was reading in Romans 12 once, and it said in there that we are to invite people into our home for dinner, and if necessary, ask them to spend the night. We're told to practice hospitality. But what I hear from so many people is that they don't want to invite people into their home because maybe they don't think their house is nice enough, or they don't feel like they can cook a meal that's good enough. Guys, that's not what it's about. It's really just about inviting people in so you can hear their stories, so you can sit with them and just talk. What I'd suggest, though, maybe before people come over, is to just say a quick prayer. And, God, if there's any way that you can use me today during this meal, please keep my eyes open. Please keep my ears open. Use me in any way you can to share your love and truth with them. I'm not talking about, doing the whole gospel message and walking them through, everything. It's just being a little bit of a seed planter, sharing a little bit with them, and then listening. And you don't have to have it all perfect. I mean, my friends make fun of me because when I have them over at my house, they often come in. I might have a laundry basket on the table, and I definitely ask them to help me out. I bring them in, and they help me clean up and everything. But great things can happen when you just sit and invite people in. I remember there was this gentleman that came into my home, and we started to talk, and over dinner we realized that we shared the same challenge with our children. And we were talking about it, and I said to him, you know what? I'm going to pray for you about that. And I can pray here for you. Or, maybe I'll pray just later, whatever you're comfortable with. And he said, yeah, go ahead and pray with me. He didn't know Jesus. And I put my hand on him and I started to pray. And he started to sob just as I started to pray for him. And I realized, and he told me, no one had ever prayed for him before. If I hadn't opened up my house and invited someone I kind of knew in for a meal, I don't know what would have happened to her if he would have ever heard that God loves him and that there's a God who forgives him. So I'm just saying, guys, you never know what can happen over a meal, and invite people into your home.